Hey folks, and welcome to our brand new series exclusively here on MysticUmbreon Shorts. Today, we're going to be taking Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet and checking to see if they are actually viable for a Scarlet and Violet playthrough. I asked you guys in a community post here, and these are going to be the following Pokemon for the next month or so. Asking you guys on a monthly basis is easier for me, so next month I will have a similar poll. Today though, we're going to be covering Clodsire, a pretty huge fan favorite, and personally, one of my favorites from Gen 9 as well. Let's start with when and where you get Paldean Wooper. Paldean Wooper is extremely easy to find at the start of the game, being available pretty much everywhere in the South Province area. You can scoop it up pretty much at the very beginning of your journey, and then it will evolve really early at level 20. So right there, early game and early evolution really gives it a plus. I would say the major downside about Clodsire is honestly in the early part of the game when it's still in the Wooper stage. It's extremely frail, and if you're not careful, it can get knocked out pretty easily. I know, I speak from personal experience using one. After it evolves though, it gets much bulkier and quickly becomes a solid wall with the unique typing of ground and poison. As far as abilities and move pulls go, they're both pretty good. Its best ability for the in-game perspective is definitely Water Absorb. This gets rid of one of the weaknesses it has while also gaining back HP for every water attack that it takes. So this thing has a water immunity. The move pool Clodsire sports is actually pretty good, having moves like Zen Headbutt, Rock Slide, and Iron Head. Stab-wise, its best early ground type move via level up is Mud Shot, and Earthquake can't be learned until level 48. I would get the Earthquake TM earlier by clearing out 5 trainers in the Asado Desert. That way, it has it way earlier. Clodsire's stats are definitely not bad, with its best being 130 HP and special defense being 100, so it can be a decent wall. As far as important battles Clodsire can perform well in, Iono's team goes down pretty easy. Her Mismagius does have Levitate though, so be wary of that. Against the Titan battles, Orthworm, Cloth, and Iron Treads, if you're playing Violet, are the best to go against. For Team Star, it can do alright against Mela, but due to Torkoal's Drought ability in tandem with her Starmobile, it makes the Fire-type move she uses that much more deadly. The best battle it does well against Team Star is for Atticus. All the poison mons just go down pretty easily due to the 4x resistance. Against Ortega, it does alright, just be aware that he uses more physical attacking mons versus special. As for Penny, Clodsire has pretty much all her evolutions covered aside from maybe Flareon, who has a pretty monstrous Flare Blitz. Oh, and Vaporeon with Aurora Beam. For the Elite Four and Champion, Poppy's team goes down pretty easy, just be aware that her Bronzong has Levitate. For Gita's team, I actually really wouldn't recommend using Clod at all, as most of her team has coverage for Clodsire and severely outspeed it. For the rest of the trainers, Nemona, Arven, or your game's respective professors, Clodsire performs well against Nemona's Lycanroc and Palmont. For Arven, Garganacl and Scovillain go down relatively easily, just be on the lookout for Scovillain's Zen Headbutt. Finally, for the game's respective professors, Sada, Screamtail, and Brute Bonnet seem to go down easily. Those are some bulky mons she has though, so be aware of that. Turo's team is much easier. Iron Moth, Iron Thorns, and Iron Hands seem to be the ones. However, Iron Thorns has an Earthquake that will hit ridiculously hard, so be careful of that risk. So looking at it from a deeper point of view, is Clodsire worth using in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? Well, given its move pool, stat lineup, and cute design, yeah, it's not bad. However, there are much better ground options such as Garchomp and Crocodile. We've seen how well these mons do. As far as where Clodsire performs best in terms of important battles, I would say it's average. It runs the risk of getting hit with a coverage move way too much just due to its slow speed. Although it can outright wall some of these trainers. With its secondary typing of poison though, getting hit with ground and psychic moves is pretty unfortunate. And you also have to be careful of getting hit with any physical attacks due to its subpar defense stat. Competitive wise, it's much better. Is it unusable from an in-game perspective? No, not at all. They are just better choices to use. And the fact you can catch Gible so much earlier on than usual makes Clodsire a little less appealing. However, the earlier evolution is definitely a plus, giving the player a decent ground type relatively early on. Garchomp is a tad later Evo, but it's going to help out a lot more in the late game. The same can also be said about Crocodile, especially with its Moxie ability. Moxie is straight up murder in playthroughs. So, overall, it's not unusable, but once again, there are just better ground type options that move faster and can do the job more efficiently. Well, that wraps up our first analysis of should this Pokemon be used in Scarlet and Violet. What did you guys think? Do you think Clodsire's pretty good? Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you next week with another segment of should this Pokemon be on your team.